Hello Gunners, and welcome to another video where I'll be going through the sad truth about Wojciech Szczęsny's Arsenal career finishing. It is not as simple as him just leaving the club and going for a new challenge. There was actually so much more to it. But before I begin, please may you subscribe, like and turn on notifications so you don't miss another video of mine. A little bit of context about Wojciech Szczęsny is that he joined in January 2006 when he was only just 15 years old. This was when the club was investing in young players, especially goalkeepers, with the likes of Fabianski, Martinez and Manone signed. He then joined the senior team in 2008-09 season before his loan to Brentford in the 2009-10 season. It was then in the 2010-11 season, after a horror show at home against West Brom in September, where Almunia picked up an elbow injury, which would see Fabianski become the number 1 and Szczęsny the number 2. But in his mind, Szczęsny was only 20, but he knew that he would be the number 1 in due time, as he believed solely in his ability. Obviously, that season, Arsenal were in a title race and every single game mattered. And unfortunately, Fabianski, who was playing with a shoulder injury in January, aggravated the injury during the warm-up against Manchester City. This would then mean Szczęsny could get a run in the team during the title race. And Arsenal remained in the top 2 until mid-April. And this was enough for Arsene Wenger, who decided upon that running and brilliant set of performances from Szczęsny that he would become the new number 1. However, it was only Arsene Wenger who had this faith in Szczęsny, as the coaching staff weren't having him. It was nothing wrong with him as a person, but they just didn't rate his ability and commitment. Then, unfortunately, everybody remembers the howler in the cup final versus Birmingham. But from 2011 to 2013, you could actually see on the replays that the staff would often gesture to Wenger about Szczęsny every time a goal was conceded. And as we know, the staff were already not backing Szczęsny, as they didn't believe he had the ability or the commitment to play as much as Wenger had been playing him. However, Wenger, being the brilliant manager he was, and the way he trusted youngsters, he showed patience and stuck with him regardless. However, maybe Szczęsny's ability, when it was a bit shaky when he came into the side, isn't just solely down to him and his ability. Goalkeeper coach Gary Payton was actually known to be incompetent. His goalkeeper analysis meetings just showed Szczęsny error montages to the 3 keepers with no analysis or advice. And this evidence shows exactly that. Szczęsny stated that before the match against Chelsea, he heard, "Watch out, when Hazard takes his penalties, he will shoot at the opposite side of where you will dive." And then Szczęsny was like, "That's funny," but then you're like, did he really just say that? So again, confusion. There was a lot of uncertainty there within the goalkeeping department, and Fabianski backs this, that the goalkeeping coach in his penalty analysis would say, "Listen, he shoots that side or that side, but go with your best feeling." So there was no real quality when working with the goalkeepers from this goalkeeping coach. And maybe that was an issue in the development of Szczęsny and our other goalkeepers during that time period. Anyway, fast forward to the 2013-14 season, where Arsenal found themselves in a title race, being first in the Premier League for 128 days, longer than any other team that season. However, the title challenge would collapse after key players picked up injuries, the likes of Ramsey and Walcott, and the Gunners ended up finishing 4th. However, Szczęsny individually had a fantastic season, collecting the Golden Glove. And a fact that you Gunners may want to know about this season is that Szczęsny, at some point in the second half of the season, went 2 months without training due to an injury. But he would still play on the weekend by getting his shoulder injected before every single game. So again, that commitment that the goalkeeping coaches said he didn't have in the early stages of his career was starting to show and prove to them that it's not the case and that he has the commitment for the club. Anyway, after that fantastic season, things started to change, as things went from bad to worse. With Szczęsny struggling with that injury towards the end of the season, he couldn't really prepare himself for the next season. As Arsenal's start to the new season was underwhelming, poor results meant we were out and in of the top 4 for the first half of the season. But again, a common theme with the team back then was injuries, with the likes of Ozil, Ramsey, Koscielny, Arteta, Giroud, Wilshere and Ospina, to name a few. But now fast forward to New Year's Day in 2015, where Arsenal went away to Southampton, who were in the top 4, and lost 2-0 due to 2 embarrassing errors from Szczęsny. And there were rumours that Szczęsny was hungover for that game. And unfortunately, professional footballers probably don't get the sympathy they deserve, as the stress of the results, injuries and errors got to Wojciech. And after the game, he was found to be smoking in the corner of showers in the away dressing room at St. Mary's, whereby one of the backroom staff saw him and reported it to Wenger. Wenger then pulled him up a few days later, fined him and stated that he would be dropped. But it must be said that Wenger did know that Szczęsny was a smoker, but didn't mind as long as it was kept away from the job. And obviously Wenger and young players, he understood that they can make mistakes. It was one of those things where Wenger was not angry but just disappointed, as he was one of the only people in the backroom staff, or the staff in general, that showed patience and had trust in him. And Szczęsny just went and broke it. Wojciech had clearly just crossed the line. Szczęsny did accept the punishment, and however he did think he'd be back in the team in a few weeks, and Wenger did too. Surprisingly though, with Szczęsny's absence, Arsenal went on a really good run until the end of the season, where we went from 6th to 2nd at one point with Ospina in goal. That was the year where we finished 3rd and won the FA Cup. And this was the time where the second keeper would play the cup games and the Champions League games, which meant Szczęsny did still play a few games, including the cup final. However, he still wanted to play every week, and his poor performances in the Champions League didn't help his cause, as the 3-1 loss to Monaco was kind of the final nail in the coffin. Szczęsny knew he wasn't going to get back in the team just through training, so he asked Wenger to go on loan so he could play every week and win his Arsenal spot back. Wenger agreed, as he didn't want a player on the bench with high wages, and that's when Arsenal signed Czech and loaned Szczęsny to Roma. When Szczęsny came back from loan, Czech had just won the Golden Glove, and Wenger wanted to keep him as number 1, so he sent out Wojciech on loan again to Roma. But when Szczęsny came back the second time, he only had a year left on his deal, and asked Wenger if he could be first choice again anytime soon. But Wenger couldn't promise that, and that is when he was sold to Juventus. Now some say that Wenger had no intention of keeping Szczęsny at the club at all, which is backed up by the fact he wasn't offered a new deal when he got back from the second loan. But the whole of Europe already knew we didn't want him anymore, so that is why he was able to leave for so cheap. Even in his first year and loan at Roma, he was dropped after he was caught smoking when Roma lost to Barcelona. And even since then, he's had a few smoking scandals with the national team. It is clear to see stress played a huge part in Szczęsny's career, and it's so unfortunate. A goalkeeper with a lot of potential, not really able to show it at the club he loved, Arsenal. Anyway, Gunners, that's it for now. Huge shout out to Ma_Gunnar for this story, and if you enjoyed, put a thumbs up, turn on notifications and subscribe. Peace.